My name is Iris Calder, 35 years old. There's a rhythm to the kind of life I built. Budget cycles, quarterly forecasts, pre-market reports on the treadmill at 6 o'clock a.m., and the quiet click of a front door that only opens to the right key. I am a financial director downtown, the one who can smell a discrepancies 2 spreadsheets away and who treats dollars like workers with assignments. For 13 years, I funneled every bonus, every tiny cost of living bump, every unexpected tax refund into a plan that had a name long before it had an address: the house. This spring, the plan became a deed. 3 bedrooms, hardwood that glows at 4:30 p.m., a kitchen that obeys when I say lower the lights, and the place I love most, an indoor terrace wrapped by high walls, a square of private sky where coffee tastes like permission. The smart system centralizes everything: lights, locks, climate, cameras, and lives on my phone like a second heartbeat. Ethan, my husband for 5 years, travels in waves. Boston, Chicago, wherever consultants go to make a 2-slide solution sound like revelation. We learned early to live in the in-between. Shared calendars, late-night FaceTimes, and me eating on the terrace while his airport bar clinks somewhere behind a Bluetooth headset. Ethan's family is noisier. His sister Madison is 32, all glossy stories and short horizons. Her husband Tyler calls himself a travel blogger, which appears to mean he photographs his feet near different bodies of water and deletes comments asking about ad revenue. They haven't stabilized in the decade I've known them. Jobs happen to them. So do evictions. I have been the softest place they land, writing rent checks I labeled loan in my budget software and gift in my heart, because Ethan asked, and I believe love was a joint account for crises. Then the neighborhood got hit. 3 houses in 2 weeks. Half of Buckhead bought yard signs with company names on them. I did not buy a sign. I bought a system. 5 cameras, front door, back, driveway, street, living room. Alarm linked to a monitoring company. Duplicate key detection enabled. I moved spare keys out of the catch-all drawer and into order. My parents, Ethan's parents, Ethan. I meant to text everyone about the new system. Work surged. I didn't. The Tuesday it happened started like any other quarter-close autopsy, a room full of professionals arguing over whether the allocation failed the strategy or the strategy failed the allocation. I was half listening, half making a quiet list of questions the numbers weren't brave enough to ask when my phone buzzed and then pulsed. Alert, break-in detected, front door, duplicate key used. I didn't excuse myself. I stood up and walked out of the conference room like a person whose house had just blood red flashed on her screen. The app opened in muscle memory. My front door camera showed Madison and Tyler walking into my home like they'd been practicing it. Madison with bags thumping against her calves, Tyler doing an approving nod, the kind men do when they are evaluating square footage they did not pay for. The alarm detonated a beat later, a metal howl that made my phone's tiny speaker sound like a siren in my throat. A crisp voice cut through the shriek. "This is Sentinel Home. Please state the name of the homeowner and the security phrase." Madison slapped her palms over her ears. Tyler looked around for a keypad he didn't know, then shouted over the alarm. "It's my brother Ethan's house." "The system has notified the police," the operator said. "Please remain where you are." I flipped to the street camera. A small box truck idled in my driveway, back door yawning open, moving blankets and labeled boxes visible like a confession. Dining room. Tyler's desk. Closet. The side panel of the truck reflected my front windows and, strangely, a rectangle of white with a black stripe. Like the ghost of a barcode sticker on a box someone had peeled badly. I breathed once, twice, the way my therapist would later say, people breathe before they choose themselves. Then I called the non-emergency line. Officer Johnson transferred himself onto my day. "Do they have permission to be there?" he asked. "No," I said. "Did you know they were coming?" "No." "Did you give them permission to live in your house?" "No." He told me units were en route, that the system had them detained for trespass, and that I'd need to give a statement. "We'll note the duplicate key alert," he added. "That tag means the lock recognized a pattern it hasn't seen from an authorized key. Sometimes it's a bad cut, sometimes it's not." I thanked him and hung up. Then I dialed the one person who should already have been calling me. Hey, what's up? Ethan said over the sound of an exhibit hall selling thought leadership. Your sister and Tyler just broke into our house, I said. A pause. Then, casually, like we were discussing whether I needed milk. Oh, yeah, I knew about that. Madison called last week. Tyler got fired. They got evicted. I told her they could stay for a while. I was going to tell you. It's not a big deal. We have a spare room. They brought a truck, I said, flat. They were moving in. The police detained them. You called the police on my sister? His voice rose. Mine did not. I didn't call them. The alarm did. Then fix it. Tell them it was a mistake. It wasn't a mistake. God, Iris, you're making this into something it's not. They're family. I could have explained trespass and consent and the fact that my name is the only one on the deed. I could have appealed to partnership. Instead, I listened to the echo of his word family folding itself around my safety and told him I had to go. I called his mother. She answered on the first ring. Hello, Iris. Did you know Madison and Tyler plan to move into my house today? Yes, she said evenly. I told them to. You have space. They needed help. We're family. Family is not a master key, I said. They broke in. The police are there. Her tone hardened like sugar into glass. You called the police on them? Are you trying to give them a record? Do you know what that does to a future? They broke in, I repeated, and I didn't call. The system did. You fix this, she snapped. Tell them it was a misunderstanding. I'm not fixing a thing you broke, I said, and I hung up, because a person can only swallow so many commands before the body refuses. Back in the corridor outside the conference room, the carpet blurred. My phone rang again. Madison. Before I could say hello, she was shouting. They treated us like criminals. The neighbors were watching. People were laughing. Do you have any idea how humiliating that was? I thumbed the recorder and let my voice go level. You broke into my house. I had a key, she spat. Ethan said we could. His mom said we could. We have every right. You did not have my permission. You set a trap. You installed that alarm to hurt us. I installed security because 3 houses were robbed, I said. I didn't know you'd try to move in without telling me. She took a breath audible enough to register. Then, astonishingly, I want $15,000. I stopped walking. For what? For humiliation and emotional damage, she declared. You embarrassed us in front of the entire neighborhood. You owe us. Something in me, something long and tired, clicked into alignment. You'll be speaking to my lawyer from now on, I said, and ended the call while she was still winding up for the next demand. Olivia answered on the second ring. We met freshman year, when she annotated case studies for fun, and I watched her brain and decided to keep her around forever. Do you want the lawyer voice or the friend voice? She asked. Both, I said, and told her everything. The alert, the duplicate key tag, the truck, the operator audio, the calls with Ethan and his mother, Madison's performance, the $15,000 demand that still burned on my screen like a dare. This isn't a family dispute, she said when I finished. It's a property violation. Trespass is the floor. Given the truck, they'll try to argue implied permission. But you have the deed and the recordings. The demand for money on top of that? That starts to smell like extortion. Go file. Bring me the footage, the call logs, the recorder file. We'll document until the facts walk by themselves. Ethan's going to be furious, I said. He let his sister invade the house you bought with your money, Olivia said, the friend voice wrapped around the lawyer's spine. Your safety and your rights are not a referendum on his feelings. On my way out of the building, my phone pinged with a notification I didn't mean to click. Tyler's latest story, a slapdash collage of moving day chaos he'd probably drafted before the sirens. One frame flashed too fast, but I caught it. A hardware counter, a dangling rack of key blanks, a white sticker with a black code strip, the caption, 5 minutes flat. I rewound, screenshotted instinctively, felt my pulse relocate somewhere calm. At the station, Officer Johnson looked exactly like the kind of man you trust when the world pretends not to see you. A lined face, a kind jaw. He watched the footage, listened to Madison demand $15,000 with a righteous quaver, and took notes that made my relief feel like someone else had decided to help carry the box. You did the right thing by coming in, he said. We'll issue stay-away notices. If they try again, it's not a warning. He slid a blank for my signature. I read every line because I always do. Under other, I wrote, security log flagged, duplicate key used. He nodded, scribbled a star. By the time I pulled into my driveway, the box truck was gone, the house quiet, the air doing that late afternoon gleam across my kitchen floor. 15 missed calls from Ethan stacked like a dare, 10 texts that started with "call me back" and ended with "withdraw the report." None that said, "Are you okay?" I set the phone face down on the island, opened my office drawer, and took out the folder I had printed the day Ethan siphoned $30,000 from our joint account to pay one of Madison's emergencies and called it ours. The forms were blank. They were also already filled with everything I knew about myself. I wrote my name and his in the spaces the state had left for this kind of choosing. Date, case caption, grounds. I held the pen like a scalpel and discovered my hand did not shake. On the terrace, the sky had turned the color the app calls warm dusk. I put the folder beside me and watched the light climb the wall, steady and indifferent, the way rightful things are, and listened to my house breathe around me, a place that knows the difference between a key and a story. The precinct smell stayed in my hair, paper, coffee, a thin thread of antiseptic, and followed me into the car like a witness. Traffic crawled. The kind of dusk that forgives no one slid down the glass towers and turned brake lights into a ribbon of red I wanted to cut. When I pulled into my driveway, the house looked exactly the same as it had that morning. Symmetrical, serene, certain. The difference was me. I unlocked my phone. 15 missed calls from Ethan layered like a lecture. 10 texts stacked like ultimatums. Call me back. Withdraw the report. You can't put Madison through this. Answer me. Not one that asked if I was safe. Inside, I put my bag on the island like it weighed more than it should. The silence didn't feel empty. It felt earned. In my office, the folder lay open, papers breathing softly where I'd left them. The first time I printed divorce forms, the ink had looked too final to touch. I slid them back in the drawer and told myself love deserved a longer runway. Then came the $30,000 he withdrew from our joint account without asking, because it's ours. And I watched the pilot light in, me go out and did nothing about it except make a file and name it after a storm. Tonight, I took the forms out again, and this time the air didn't argue. Name, address, date of marriage, the space where the state wants the reason reduced to a checkbox. I wrote neatly, the way I always do, and felt the lines hold. By 9, headlights washed across the front room, too fast for the turn. The engine cut, the door slammed, the whole neighborhood informed of an entrance. The lock turned, his key, still obedient, and Ethan came in red-faced and loud enough to set off anything that still listened to him. "What the hell did you do?" I was on the couch, the folder next to me, the house lights at a level that made truth look inevitable. "I protected my property," I said. "The police issued a stay away. Madison can't come within 500 feet. He laughed in that tight way people do when the only other option is listening. "Do you know how humiliating that is for her? You had her handcuffed in front of the whole street." "She tried to move into my house without permission," I said. "She brought a truck. She demanded $15,000 to compensate her feelings." "She's family," he snapped. "You should have talked to me first." "You knew they were coming and didn't tell me," I said. "You gave them permission to live in my house without asking me. This house is titled to me, Ethan. My name is on the deed, not yours." "We're married," he said, stepping closer, palms out in that coaxing posture that had worked on too many people. "What's yours is mine." "No," I said. "What I bought before the marriage with money I earned is mine. You signed the prenup without reading it because you said, 'I trust you. It says what it says.'" His jaw moved, a muscle rehearsing an argument it could not win. "You installed that system to trap my sister." "I installed it because 3 houses were robbed," I said. "The system flagged a duplicate key used at my door." "That doesn't mean anything," he said too quickly. "It means someone cut a copy of a key they weren't supposed to," I said. "It means the lock recognized a pattern it never learned." I slid the folder across the coffee table, open to the first page. "It means we're done." He stared at the caption like the state had personally insulted him. "You're divorcing me over this?" "I'm divorcing you," I said quietly, "because your concept of family requires me to abandon my safety. Because you think boundaries are a problem to negotiate down. Because I cannot share a house with a man who doesn't think my no matters where his sister's need begins." He grabbed the papers. His eyes moved left to right like a scanner choking on a bad feed. He tossed them back. They fanned, caught the light, and settled like feathers from a bird I had finally set free. "Fine," he said. "You want a divorce? You'll get one, and I'm taking half of everything." "Good luck with that," I said without heat. He stomped upstairs. the house absorbing the tantrum like good insulation. Drawers slammed, closets protested. He came down 20 minutes later with 2 suitcases and a banker's box that hadn't held bank documents in years. He set them down pointedly and looked at me like I was supposed to narrate his departure for him. "I'll be back for the rest," he said. "Call first," I said. "You don't live here anymore." He stared, waiting for me to blink. I didn't. He picked up the box, then each suitcase, one in each hand, like proof of burden, and left. The front door shook when he slammed it. Somewhere in the neighborhood, a dog barked, then decided the night wasn't worth it. I didn't cry. My body made the impossible easy. It exhaled. I slept hard and dreamless. In the morning, I made coffee, texted Olivia 2 words, "It's filed," and called a locksmith. He arrived in a white van with a magnetic sign that had weathered the last recession and a face that had opened a lot of doors and refused a few. He worked methodically, replacing cylinders, resetting pins, reprogramming the keypad. When he pulled the old core of the front lock and turned it in his palm, he frowned slightly, the professional kind that says, "I have a fact you didn't know you needed." "See that?" he said, tapping a tiny bright scrape inside the plug. "Fresh bidding marks. Not from your original key. Someone cut a copy recently. Sloppy work, off by a hair, which is enough for a smart lock to flag duplicate." The kitchen was suddenly colder. "Can you tell where it was cut?" He shrugged. "If they used a big box place, the blanks are generic and the machines catalog cuts by timestamp. Some stores tie receipts to loyalty numbers. You can try asking for camera footage if you file a report. Sometimes they cooperate when there's a police case attached." He gave me new keys, the metal clean and honest in my hand, and programmed a fresh code I knew no one else knew. When he left, I called the security company and made Olivia the only emergency contact besides me. I removed Ethan, his mother, his father. It felt like cleaning a wound, removing debris so skin can meet skin again. Then I sat at the island and did the unglamorous labor of separation. I opened the bank app and linked only my accounts to autopays I had created. I turned off shared calendars. I went through my phone and blocked numbers with my last name in their voicemail. I pruned social media until my world fit back in my hands. It wasn't spite, it was sanitation. At noon, the doorbell camera pinged with a motion alert. A neighbor's delivery guy traipsed across the frame. I had a flash of Madison's face, twisted with entitlement, of Tyler's caption about keys cut in 5 minutes. I opened my email and drafted a request to the hardware chain's store manager, attaching my police report number and the screenshot of the timestamp from his story. "I am the homeowner on a duplicate key flag incident. Please preserve security footage for the following window." I CC'd Officer Johnson and Olivia. The send button clicked like a trigger on something that wasn't a gun. The afternoon was paperwork and the business of being the one who leaves the right breadcrumb trail. Olivia called between court and court. "Serve him today," she said. "We'll file for temporary exclusive possession and enforce the stay away. If he comes back hot, call me and call the police. Document all contact attempts. The prenup will hold. The title will hold. The facts will hold." "His mother will call," I said. "She will," Olivia agreed. "She'll say this isn't how family behaves. You'll tell her this is how adults behave when other adults trespass." At 5, the sun found the exact angle that turns my living room wall into a painting. I sat on the floor and let it. The house felt newly minted, though nothing about it was new. That's what boundaries do when they're enforced. Familiar rooms return themselves to you. At 7, Ethan texted from an unknown number. He'd realized he was blocked and had borrowed someone else's phone. "Answer me. We need to fix this before my mother calls an attorney." I didn't reply. A minute later, "You're overreacting. Madison is fragile." Then, "I'll be there at 10 to get more clothes." I typed 2 words and deleted them. I forwarded the message to Olivia and to Officer Johnson with a note. "Unannounced return planned. Restraining order warned." Officer Johnson responded in 5 minutes. "We'll have a car nearby. Don't open the door if he arrives without notice." He didn't show. Maybe his attorney told him to sit on his hands. Maybe his mother did. Maybe he finally understood that the lock itself had an opinion now. In bed, the house's night sounds arranged themselves into a lullaby I recognized from my first week here, before I confused security with softness. The old me would have spiraled through what-ifs. Who would hate me? what it meant to become the woman who calls police on people who share her last name. The new me counted the facts instead. I am safe. The deed is in my name. The system works. The law works when invited to. I invited it. In the morning, a reply from the hardware store's general manager sat at the top of my inbox. We've pulled footage for the date/time provided and will retain pending police request. The transaction on our system aligns with a loyalty account ending in 41 registered to E. Harrison. I stared at the name until it stopped being letters and became a map. Ethan's mother hadn't just blessed a trespass, she had facilitated it with points. I forwarded the email to Olivia and to Officer Johnson. Not pressing charges for the key copy yet, I wrote, "Not today, just keep this." Olivia replied, "Copy saved. Facts age well. Boundaries too." Officer Johnson added, "Understood. If they cross your line again, we'll help you draw it darker." I made coffee and took it to the terrace. The wall held another square of sky. I thought about families who confuse access with love and love with ownership. I thought about keys, how they are not metaphors until the day they are, and then they are nothing else. When I went back inside, the forms waited on the island, ready for the next signature and the stamp that would make them public. I placed my hand on them briefly, like a blessing or a benediction, and felt how much lighter paper is compared to what it carries. I had a meeting at 9 about a budget that was not my life. I showered, dressed, tied my hair back, and left my house. When the door latched behind me, the system chirped softly, the way friends clear their throats before saying something important. Armed. The word followed me to the car. The word fit. The following week unfolded in the kind of quiet that makes you second-guess peace. The police report was filed, the locks replaced, Ethan served. Every legal mechanism was moving exactly the way Olivia promised it would. Efficient, impersonal, unstoppable. The house no longer felt like a battlefield. It felt like a vault. Each morning, I made coffee and scrolled through my inbox. Ethan's lawyer had already started the predictable volley, requests for joint access, demands for half the house's equity. Olivia met every letter with receipts, deed, bank records, prenup. "He's fighting the facts, not you," she reminded me. Still, every time my phone buzzed, I braced for something irrational. Madison screaming, his mother's voice turned sermon, some cousin delivering guilt on behalf of the family. But there was only silence. Until Friday. The doorbell camera caught a flash of movement. Ethan's parents, standing just outside the gate, wrapped in coats like contrition could keep them warm. I didn't open the door. I didn't have to. The audio feed carried their voices clearly. "She won't even speak to us," his mother whispered. "She doesn't have to," Arthur said. "She's won." They left flowers on the step, white lilies, the same ones from my wedding bouquet, and an envelope tucked beneath them. I let the police collect it. Inside, a note written in her looping script. "This is not who we are. Families forgive. You can still come home." The officer looked up from the letter, eyebrow raised. "Want to press for violation of the stay away?" "No," I said. "Let them think the silence is mercy." That night, I sat on the terrace with a glass of wine and replayed the last week frame by frame. The alert, the fight, the locks, the emails. It wasn't anger that came back to me. It was clarity. The kind you only earn after your world stops making sense. Ethan texted once more from a different number. "I didn't know about the duplicate key. Mom must have done it." I typed back, "That's between you and her now," then blocked the number. By Monday, Olivia had good news. Preliminary hearings done. Judge granted exclusive possession of the house until final ruling. He can't come within 100 yards without notice. I exhaled. "That's something." "That's everything," she said. The divorce hearing itself felt almost anticlimactic. A courtroom that smelled faintly of old paper and disinfectant. A judge whose voice carried the weight of routine more than drama. Ethan sat across from me in a suit that didn't fit the way it used to. Madison wasn't there. She couldn't be, legally, but his parents were, eyes fixed on the floor. Olivia presented the documents, the deed predating the marriage, the prenuptial clause, the bank statements tracing every dollar. Ethan's lawyer tried to paint the house as marital contribution, but the judge cut him off. "The property in question was purchased solely with Ms. Calder's funds prior to marriage," he said, voice even. "Under state law, it remains separate." That was it. One sentence. Years of work, sacrifice, and principle reduced to a ruling and a tap of a gavel. When court adjourned, Ethan stood as if to speak, then thought better of it. His mother's hand reached for him. He shook it off. They left in silence. Outside, the autumn air was crisp enough to feel new. Olivia handed me the final papers. "You're free," she said simply. The word landed softly, not triumphant, just true. Over the next months, life resumed, a rhythm that felt human. I worked, I slept, I cooked for one. I went to yoga again, though I mostly liked the quiet of lying still at the end. The house began to sound different. Footsteps that were only mine, laughter that didn't have to be polite. Through a friend, I heard the rest. Ethan had lost his big contract overseas. His firm reassigned him to a smaller portfolio. Madison and Tyler had moved back with his parents after being evicted again. 5 adults, 1 mortgage, endless arguments. Their family dinners were reportedly legendary for the wrong reasons. I didn't feel vindicated. I didn't feel sorry. I felt nothing at all. 6 months later, Olivia invited me to a hospital fundraiser. "You need to meet people who talk about something other than lawsuits," she said. That's where I met Michael, 42, surgeon, divorced, a laugh that didn't compete with yours. We talked for 2 hours about music, travel, and the concept of home. He asked for my number, and for the first time in years, I didn't hesitate. We dated slowly. Dinners that ended with separate checks, texts that didn't demand. He liked the house, but never called it ours. When I finally told him the whole story, he listened without interruption. "That must have been terrifying," he said when I finished. "But you handled it." "You don't think I overreacted?" I asked. He shook his head. "You defended what was yours. Everyone should be so clear about their boundaries." I smiled. That's what my therapist said. Months passed. Peace settled into routine. And then, on an ordinary Saturday morning, a letter arrived, in handwriting I knew too well. No return address, just my name. I opened it cautiously, though curiosity always wins. "I've been thinking about everything that happened. I forgive you. We all make mistakes. If you're ready to apologize, we can start again as a family. Love, Mom." "Forgive me." I laughed until tears came. The audacity was almost artful. Then I fed the letter through my shredder, watched it turn to confetti, and let the hum of the blades drown out whatever ghost of guilt was left. Later, over brunch, I told Michael. He nearly choked on his coffee. "She forgave you?" "For protecting my own house, apparently." He shook his head. "That family's delusional." "Former family," I corrected. He smiled. "Good, you deserve better." That night, I sat on the terrace again. The walls were the same, the sky the same square of stars, but everything else had changed. The locks, the name on the deed, the woman inside. Freedom didn't sound like fireworks. It sounded like a door closing softly and locking from the inside.